What is going on, everyone? My name is Aquarius. Welcome to week 2 against Jermoi, coach of the Pallet Politoeds. I have to make sure that's correct. Yep, the Pallet Politoeds. So really cool logo, really cool name. You can check it out there. As you can see, our record is already 1-1, not because of this game, but because of a game we had against Emperor Amp, who was supposed to be our opponent, but he was kicked out for behavioral reasons. Jermoi and I both mutually wanted to replay a game that counted. The admin would not let us, which I would accept if they sort of had some sort of reason and backing behind it, but it didn't seem they actually did. But regardless, what they say goes. Since they are admin, you can only fight it to a certain extent. However, I did wish that they would provide a reasoning, but obviously can't do anything about it. Is what it is. You have to deal with the people who run the leagues that you choose to join. So is what it is. I'm not going to try and stir any drama. I was just trying to be as transparent as possible. I did try and fight it, but honestly, it gets to a point where there's not much you can do. We did compromise in the sense that the kill and death for this game would matter, and as well as, I think that's it, just the kill and death would matter. But it was already predetermined it would be a 1-0 in Jermoi's favor because Amp did beat me in our original game. I'm not going to show it because it did have some drama and controversy behind it and is questionably legitimate. However anyone wants to interpret it. So it didn't go too serious in the build here, neither did Jermoi, but I am going to show this for the sake of the fact that it was actually a really good battle, and I think it's worth showing, and it's important to reflect on this since we will be playing Jermoi again week 11 since he is in our division. However, yes, we do fall to 1-1. Nonetheless, we actually are still at the top of our division. Slick and Fozzie haven't played their week 2 game yet, but regardless, there isn't anyone that has a possibility of being 2-0. So thankfully, we are still going to hopefully maintain that top playoff spot. And if we can just win out the next few weeks, it shouldn't really matter the result of what happened this week. So ultimately, is what it is. Can't really do anything about it. I'm going to stop ranting for a bit and just go into what the team was. The first mon I brought was a physically defensive Macargo to take on things that he didn't necessarily bring, but it definitely still takes on Monferno and Regirock. I'm actually going to pull up what his team was in a second here. Here we go. Yeah, it was also for things like, okay, I don't actually have it up here. Big LOL. Yeah, it basically just things like Monferno and Regirock and those sort of physical mons, some other stuff he didn't bring. I think Shelgon was another big one of them, and just being able to toxic stealth rocks. It was just a really good switch into a lot of things, and also his physically defensive version still was able to beat things like Venomoth and Togetic, depending if it had Toxic or not, so didn't mind it at all. Next mon was a Life Orb Mesprit, just having enough coverage to hit the entire team. I believe it was Psychic, U-Turn, Signal Beam, and Ice Beam. I might be wrong. Psychic, U-Turn, Ice Beam, and Energy Ball. Energy Ball was the last one. Torterra was Rock Tomb, actually to slow down Venomoth, as well as Earthquake, Toxic, and Synthesis. It was more of a fast, bulky set. It was max speed, max HP. And then Persian was a Life Orb physical set with Fake Out, Knockoff, Return, and U-Turn. It was basically enough to hit his entire team outside of something like Togetic and Regirock. So once Regirock goes down, Return becomes a pretty spammable move because he doesn't actually have a Ghost type, I don't believe. And then Golbat was physically offensive, actually, but still held in Violite, so max speed, max attack, relatively. Some HP investment in there, but it ended up taking out two-shotting things like Whiscash and actually one-shotting things like Venomoth and Monferno, which is really, really nice. And then Electabuzz was another bulky mon there, but also had a ton of coverage with things like Psychic, Signal Beam, and Volt Switch. So we're just going to get right into the game. Once again, this doesn't necessarily matter just for kills, deaths, and such, but that's it. So I actually end up leading Electabuzz because it just covers every single mon that he brought, is he actually uses his Monferno to get up rocks. And I decided this is a really good opportunity to get momentum and just Volt Switch. I didn't think he was going to sack his Monferno right away, but this does allow me to get in my Torterra and scout if this is HP Ice. If he is HP Ice, I can get off a Toxic because I know I live, and it also means that Macargo is a much better switch for this thing because it does have some specially defensive investment, and I think it can take 2 Leaf Storms. Maybe not after rocks, but I could definitely recover, stall it off pretty effectively. So Macargo is looking defensively like really nice if I can surprise Whiscash with Torterra or with an HP Grass or something like along those lines, an Energy Ball, Mesprit, etc. So that's really good. However, I can't leave Torterra in here against the HPI, so I do go into Electabuzz, which, because it's a Violite, will not take much from an HP Ice, but he actually predicts me to switch out, or just goes for the safe kill and goes for a Leaf Storm here, which does a massive amount to Electabuzz, and I'm very scared now because Electabuzz was sort of reliant to take hits from this Rotom and also things like Togetic and even Venomoth, because, it was very key for things like Vital Spirit for Sleep Powder, etc., so I thought it was really important. He does bring in Whiscash here, and this is the very pivotal move in the game. I don't know if he does have Rindo or Suspects or a Scarf or anything. I just play it safe and go for his Power Grass, and thankfully it works out here. And then Psychic also does work out in the sense that I didn't necessarily need to bring Psychic. Anything that Psychic hit, Volt Switch and Thunderbolt also hit, but I thought it would be very nice to just get that extra damage off on Venomoth to see if, maybe it thinks it can set up on me or anything. He actually Baton Passes with Venomoth, so not sure what was behind that play or whatever, but I thought it was pretty cool tech to bring on Venomoth as a sort of cool pivoting set. Also sort of testing to see if I was Scarf or not, or choiced in any way, I should say. So I do Volt Switch on this Regirock as I do go back into my Torterra. I assume he'll just kill me here with a Earthquake or something, but he actually goes for the Rock Polish, which is very scary. Whatever. But he does actually pack the Ice Punches, which is really scary. Now here I debated switching out into something else to scout for the Z move. I ultimately decided it wasn't worth it, because if he does have the Z move, Magcargo can actually take any hit absent an Earthquake, and I don't think he actually has Earthquake as coverage on this set, just because I think he needs Ice Punch and Stone Edge, and I actually think he needs Drain Punch looking at my team. I don't remember completely, but I'm pretty sure Magcargo lived everything after that. I could Toxic Stall, whatever. I also just didn't think that he'd bring a Z move on a Regirock, so I did sort of stay in with my Mesprit and go for the Energy Ball, which does take it out. He does miss the Stone Edge, unfortunately, but it doesn't necessarily matter because I do let Venomoth come in and just Bug Buzz me off, which, ends up happening, which is great. So I go back to my Electabuzz. I've already shown that I do outspeed this thing, so he chooses to sack his Monferno as a result of this, just to make sure of everything. And I go for Signal Beam, which I don't think he was expecting either on the Rotom. Bug coverage is actually really nice against his team, so I went for a Signal Beam there, and he actually reveals to be Aya Papa Berry. So that's definitely very scary, but assuming this Togetic doesn't have Toxic and I can get my Rocks up, Venomoth will die to Rocks, and this Magcargo can actually outstall the rest of Jermoi's team, which is very, very nice. So Magcargo putting in the finest of work. Really, really appreciating it. I called it Checkmate originally, but I changed its name to Bullet because I thought that was funny. Yeah, I guess that was the thing. But Ben did tell me in a chat once that on paper Magcargo doesn't look that great. It didn't actually look that great in this matchup either, but it definitely performs in the games themselves. So Magcargo actually racking up 3 total kills here because it'll die to Rocks, and then Togetic will actually eventually die to Toxic, plus the Lava Plume damage. So really can appreciate that, and that's all she wrote. So unfortunately, despite us winning 3-0, it will be a 1-0 in his favor, just based on how the admin made the decision, despite me strongly disagreeing with it, despite Jermoi also wanting to replay it or whatever. But ultimately, if we had countered it seriously, this would not have probably been the result. It probably would have been much closer and much differently prepped by both people, because we knew going into it that it wasn't necessarily going to count for anything other than kills and deaths, and just sort of scouting out how we think matchups are against each other for Week 11. So Jermoi, I think, is definitely one of the bigger competitions, competition within my division. I do think Elliot and Jack in the other division alongside our conference is incredibly threatening, but I do think Jermoi, I'm glad to have gotten the win off here, sort of scout out his play style, which is really, really nice. But Week 11, it's going to be in business. Next week, we play Slick Panther, who is no Johto player. He got 6-0'd Week 1, but he is coming in with a vengeance, and I've seen some of his replays, and I know how good of a player he actually is. So despite us being 1-1, despite us getting this win, but it's still being 1-1, if you know me, do not want to go 2-1 by the end here, or don't want to go 1-2 by the end here. I definitely want to continue a sort of streak to get me into a sort of confident vibe against even bigger players like Jack and Elliot. So yeah, this is the first person in our division. We have Slick next week, and then we have Dean week 5, I believe. And I'm feeling all right. I think I have a good shot to be at the top of my division. I'm not 100% on it, obviously, but I do think that I'm relatively confident in it, especially if I put my best foot forward. We'll see how that does. We'll see if I can do that given my college schedule, etc. But yeah, that's about it. That's this game. Good game to Jermoi. He's a fantastic guy. I'll link his channel and his Twitch in the description below. He's a fantastic person, and honestly, he's one of the most fair people I've ever met, and one of the nicest people to talk to in this community because he's so understanding and so willing, and so I guess we just mutually understand each other. So really, really great guy, and I'm excited to play him in week 11. So other than that, that's all I got, and I will see you all later.